Live, and
we are live from Keeler Garden.
Good afternoon.
And I repeat, it has snowed and melted.
But we didn't get the 6 inches like some forecasted.
No, but it was looking a little brutal this morning. So we are revisiting this topic because I didn't go into detail, and it was brought to my attention that we have a wide range of viewers on these wonderful videos. And am I loud enough, or should I be closer to the microphone?
Maybe
Wait
take
for the truck to go by.
take one more step towards us.
Okay.
I think. There we go.
Okay.
That was 2. It's okay. It's okay.
So I'm stalling because this truck's gonna make a lot of noise. That was gonna be wild.
Yeah.
So thanks for your patience.
Oh, Lisa Blankenheim is watching.
Hi, Lisa! Welcome! So, we are, again, at Keeler Gardens on Keeler Avenue, just north of Addison on the northwest side of Chicago. And that is important because location matters.
Location.
Once again,
Why does location matter?
so many reasons. We're a small nonprofit. We're here for you to help connect you with nature. In questionable times, in all times. We are a space to connect you with nature, and we are educating on how connecting with nature improves our lives.
And what are you educating? What are we? Sorry, even though it's just you talking, it's all your knowledge. What are we educating on today?
On snow and frost and freeze and zones and temperatures and such. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of working with virtually on Zoom with the Avondale Gardening Alliance. Fantastic group in an area just southeast of us here.
Shout out to the
shout out to the group there.
Yeah.
Right? To
Yeah.
Avondale Gardening Alliance.
Yes.
It's a shout out to them. I thought Ed was going to say something different. So.
What was I going to shout?
I don't know.
Okay.
So they reminded me that as I'm talking about all these wonderful topics, that we have a lot of interested visitors and viewers that aren't as far along in the gardening experience that I might be, and so I tend to go over here when we should be talking over here. So we're going to sort of start over with this snow and freeze and frost concept.
Okay.
A lot of folks were struggling with what's the temperature, can I do this, can I do that, and so the big picture here is, where do you live? So we live at Keeler Gardens. We live in Chicago, and the reason that's important is because where you live judges what the temperature is probably going to be at any given time of year. Temperature and light is what's going to judge how things grow.
Okay, we're not talking about temperature and light for snow. We're moving past, like, snow is water, and it's in a frozen stage. You said we were starting at the beginning, so just checking in. I'll be quiet now.
I just had some questions. So
Ed always has questions.
So the first question I'd asked was, why is location important? And that's why location's important. So if you know where you live, you know what your general temperatures are going to be, and you know what your zone is. We talked about perennials a couple of days ago, and things that do well in certain temperatures and bloom earlier than others, and the early spring blooming bulbs, etc., and that has to do with temperature. So with this past snow that we've had these couple of days, our temperature has fallen. Now, when the temperature falls below freezing, I wonder if everybody realizes that 32 degrees is freezing.
I knew that.
Okay. When temperature falls below freezing, we have the potential to get to what's called a frost. And frost can kill plants because whatever is above the ground and exposed to the air can freeze in 32, 30, 28 degree temperatures.
But not everything will.
No, in fact, I don't know if you guys can see our garden here. I believe the low last night was around 29 or 30, something like that. And everything is doing just fine here. We had one plant around the corner that may have frozen that I'm going to check on later today, which was very disappointing, but that's another story. So
Involves 2 sisters and, different story altogether.
I don't know what he's talking. Oh, frozen. Got it. So my point is that what I learned is that people are still asking questions about what can we do now at this time of year with these temperatures and snow. So the first thing is, don't even consider bringing anything that's resembling a houseplant outside for at least another month. Your evening temperatures, that's the overnight temperatures, have to be above 50 degrees for those leaves and flowers to not just wilt away and die in the cold overnight temperatures. Okay, now we are probably well past what's called a hard freeze, which means like that the ground is going to start to freeze. We're going to start experiencing that again at the end of the growing season. So we're done with that, but we still have this frost.
Serious question. So a hard freeze is where the ground itself actually...
It's when the roots are subjected to freezing. So
Okay.
there's a lot of plants that the roots cannot freeze, but above ground, if it's 32 or something and the plant just dies back, you can take those roots and bring them inside, and the roots are still viable. Okay, that's wintering over, and we've done that. We have a lot of plants like that inside. Okay.
Yes, we do.
We're probably past that point, but you don't want to bring any of that outside because you don't want any of those things coming up above the soil. And then we have a night like yesterday, or again, our daytime temps are still only in the mid 40s. So until our nighttime, overnight temperatures are well above 50, that's when it's really safe to consider bringing out plants. Now, generally, we go by what is the final frost. That means the last night where there's any risk that it's going to be so cold that those leaves are going to die. All right? In Chicago, that can be as late as after Mother's Day, mid-May.
Well, so less than a month away.
That's the safe zone for the last frost. Now, that doesn't mean that stuff won't be okay. But, for example, in this lovely group that I was with yesterday, we had some folks that had started some seedlings. That's when you put a seed in soil and it makes a little sprout.
Inside, usually.
And
right?
yes, we have to start those inside because those seeds and the soil need to be wet and warm for those seeds to wake up. So they had made a little seedling, and spinach is when I mentioned one of those cool weather annuals where you plant it every year, but it can handle the cool temps. Well, last night it was too cool, and those little spinach guys died. Sorry, really sorry. We're hanging our heads.
What will Popeye eat?
That's great.
Wow, that one you laugh at. Okay,
that one was good.
I see where the bar is.
Maybe it was the delivery. I don't know. So my point is that there's a lot to learn from the perspective of what can we do and what can't we do. But when it comes to anything that you're concerned about, overnight 50 degrees is your sort of your marker,
benchmark,
safety, your benchmark, and then overnight above 34 for anything that can handle a light, what's called a light frost. Now, some things can go as low as like 28. That's like kales can do that. Some cabbages. And that's why those are planted in the late fall as decoratives, because they freeze in place. So, with that said, Chicago is what's called zone 5-ish, depending on where you are.
That is a technical term, 5-ish.
And the reason I say that is because that zone number dictates how cold we get in the winter. Okay? So, Chicago might have reported temperatures of X degrees, but in certain areas of the city, depending on if you're close to the lake, if you're in what's called a microclimate, you might never reach that temperature. We here a couple of years ago, this was 3 or 4 years ago, we had some bulbs in the ground. They're a semi-tropical. They're called pineapple lilies. I don't know the botanical name. I don't remember it. I know. They're beautiful. They just make a beautiful flower. And we missed one. We missed one in the garden. We dug them up because they're like a zone 7 or 8 plant.
They needed to come in.
They needed to come in, and we missed one, and it survived because we had an inch or two of snow the whole winter. It insulated. It was close enough to the house that the ground froze, but not enough that it killed this particular bulb. And that's a zone 7 or 8 plant. This is very rare that would happen naturally. We had plants in our garage in a pot that were also a zone 7 plant that made it just fine. I'm not suggesting that that's going to work for everyone, but you never know. So that's why it's really important to understand temperatures and what you're planting and what you want to grow. Most seeds need like a room temperature or higher to germinate. So if you're going to put seeds in the ground, if it's this temperature, it's going to take a long time for those to wake up. Because generally it only takes about a week for a seed to wake up. So
that's about how long it takes me to wake up.
Ed's trying to make jokes again. I'm really sorry. The look on his face is why I'm laughing. He's like, oh my God. It's a tough crowd today. So, well, I'll take a break there and see if anyone has any questions. Are there any questions? Okay, great. So, with that said, a reminder our peonies, again, if you had visited on previous dates, yesterday and the day
You have
before,
some right there next to you.
our peonies
Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit.
A little cold discomfort, and some of them are leaning over a little. But as we noted yesterday, they completely recovered and are upright. We had some folks in the neighborhood mentioning that some of their bulbs were laying down and not doing well. We've been very fortunate here that everything has pretty much recovered after all that snow really nicely. And it actually is turning out to be a nice afternoon, surprisingly. It's not terribly cold, it's not terribly windy. And these are the moments where we embrace. We say, okay, now the garden's having a chance to sort of reset, all right? So if we had gotten the donations that we normally have, or we were sharing like we normally do, we probably would have some other annuals to show you that did just fine with a little snow, like pansies, for example. Don't have those right now. We may or may not see those annual displays this year. And we can post pictures from previous years, or if you might want to do a little of your own research to look up more of those cool weather plants, as I mentioned before. So to recap, what we were reviewing today was our zone. Chicago is in the
5-ish.
5-ish, depending on where in the city you are. Some are even saying 6A, again, depending on your microclimate. Okay, that number is important because it dictates how cold it gets and when it gets cold. As I mentioned, our last frost is usually mid to late April. And that last frost is important because that has to do with when you want to get your seedlings in the ground, whether you decide to put seeds straight in the ground or grow them first inside and bring them outside. And then also, we're talking about those indoor plants, like our gardenias, for example. We had a video of the gardenias from a week or so ago. We would not even consider bringing any of those kinds of house plants outside, at least until the evening temps are 50 degrees. All right? So, I think that recapped enough of the level of how temperatures work, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're very pleased with the outcome of our day here, our results here, and we are going to go over a couple points of other things that we're offering, of course. Join us for these videos every day. Look at some of the ones that you missed. Join us again in the future.
Gina has been taking fabulous pictures of what's in bloom on our Instagram site.
And we'll have some things to post to Instagram today, and then tomorrow on our Saturday rounds of the garden, we'll review some of those beautiful blooms for you to see up close.
Maybe today or tomorrow we could post what's budding instead of what's in bloom, because I'm looking at some right around us. Some of the trees are starting to bud a little bit.
What we're going to post for our what's in bloom, actually, I'm going to leave it a surprise. You'll have to go over to our Instagram.
That means she doesn't know yet.
I know. So
that means I don't know yet.
No. So yes, go to our Instagram feed. And if you can't make it to Instagram today or tomorrow, then tomorrow when we do our video, you'll see what our focus has been on.
So the Instagram is going to be a sneak peek at tomorrow?
So the Instagram photos for the whole week are a sneak peek of our What's in Bloom tour that we do on Saturdays. So another program that we're trying to make a little more consistent so people can really participate and join in, comment, ask questions, and also keep you abreast on things you can learn here.
And one last thing we wanted to mention is we know this video quality is absolutely horrible.
Until we look at Facebook and we see that everything, hey, neighbors and visitors, join our live videos in the future. Look, we have live people on our live videos.
From Florida to Chicago.
Yes. So we know that these videos are choppy and grainy and pixelated, and we often focus on things in these videos that you may not really get a clear picture of. And so every time we can, when we have a high quality video of this live video, we will post a link to it in the comments. To
YouTube.
To YouTube. We missed 2 or 3 because we couldn't get them to download appropriately. So our other programs, the What's in Bloom on Instagram, our weekly tour on Saturdays, our prayer flags, if anyone is interested. I think I'm going to try to get some more pictures on there. We've got 7 now. I think we'll put the 8th one up this weekend. We're trying to be as educational as possible. We're trying to encourage you to do further learning. with your kids, maybe if kids are out, when kids are out of school, I know some kids have e-learning, and I'm not sure how that's going, but this will give you opportunities for maybe things that they're interested in. Maybe you have a family member who's interested in art and wants to join us and do a little prayer flag with us. You can go back a few videos and see what the prayer flags are about. And then last but not least, we want to remind you that we are a nonprofit, and I know times are confusing right now, but
we're still here.
But we're here, and we're open, and I mean the space is on the sidewalk. You can't help but benefit from it. Or these videos if you're truly staying at home. The goal here is for us to connect with nature because it really improves us. It makes us better people individually, healthy, makes our community stronger. And what we've built here, we're looking to design and build elsewhere too. So, number one, if you know of funding sources, please do not hesitate to put us in contact. Maybe the business you run or own or manage or work at is willing to sponsor. Maybe you know of a granting body that you could provide an introduction for us.
Maybe you also know somebody that could benefit from this. And that's a big thing is
share this video. That is key also. As many people as can see these to get us involved in as many communities and as many programs as we possibly can. That is one of the reasons why we're trying to do this every day to keep people really involved. So thank you. I think we've touched on everything. Anybody have any questions, please put them in the comments. We had a wonderful conversation yesterday
about peonies.
And we would love to do that again on any topic. You just let us know what you would like to see. All right? We will see you soon.